me slide it. Perfect. Good morning. Thank you, Toastmaster, fellow speakers, guests. I want to talk about disability this morning. I really don't like that word. My older brother was born without a right arm. From here down was missing. And it was a really tough day for my parents. I hear I wasn't born yet. Very hard day to have their son not have an arm. Apparently his first kindergarten experience was spent, the first few days was spent in the boiler room because he wouldn't come out with the other kids. And then finally he got his first date. His first date was prom for high school. And it was his first bad date and his only date all the way through high school. So it was really tough on him to have this arm. But all these problems he had with the boiler room and the date, I don't believe really had anything to do with his arm per se. It was the embarrassment that this arm caused him. To give you an idea, in a grocery store environment, now when I was a little older, it would be a fairly common event that we'd be standing in the grocery store line, maybe with my mom and my brother and I, maybe another family would come up and the kid might say something like, "Hey, look, that kid doesn't have an arm." And so the mom would go, "Shh, shh, shh." And then he'd go, "But Mom, he doesn't have an arm." And she'd be trying to get him to be quiet. And what would result, instead of like pats on the head like my kid gets, or "Oh, he's so cute," there'd be this kind of embarrassing silence. And so it was an embarrassment, it was almost. It wasn't that he couldn't do things. So there wasn't just the small talk, the banter at the checkout line. It was more an embarrassed silence. But is my brother disabled? In high school, we were expected to wrestle. Our family were wrestlers. Dad made us wrestle. My older brother, he took second in state in a 5A school, got a college scholarship to wrestle. Well, I finally made it to my senior year, and I couldn't accomplish the same deed. So who was more able, he or I? Even now, he plays handball. Now, one-armed guy playing handball is in a little court like this, and you hit the ball, normally people two hands. Well, he has to backhand it like this. And yet when I play him, if we win a close game, he has to spot me points. So if it was golf, he'd be going, "Well, you have the higher handicap, Matt, you get the points." So who's disabled or who's handicapped? How do you measure those things? I'm not sure which of us is. It just depends on each subject. In my family, we don't really use those words in my whole life. I don't remember anybody saying handicapped or disabled. That's not a common word we use. I mean, we never thought about my brother having a disability or a handicap. He did have a short arm, and we named him Frankie. Frankie was a cool guy. We would draw little faces on his arm. We'd wrestle with Frankie. He was like another family member. He could whip him around. It was really cool. And then when my brother had kids, they knew Frankie really well. They spent a lot of time with Frankie. So was he a disability, or was he like another family member? Frankie was a pretty cool guy. Well, as fate would have it, my brother marries a real nice gal, and she's driving down the highway one day in her pickup truck, and something's going on with the trailer, so she pulls over. She's hanging from the truck, looking back at the trailer, jumps off, and she degloves her wedding finger. Her wedding finger gets, catches on the ring, takes off all the skin. So they amputate her finger. Now that finger is in a jar in their pantry. And every year the kids at school are asking about her finger. So sometime during the year she takes the jar to class and shows them her finger. And they want to know where the finger is? It's in the jar. But what might you do if you find yourself... What might you do if you find yourself in a line at the grocery store and you see somebody who's got a quote-unquote disability? What could you do? First of all, try to imagine that they're really not disabled. They just might be missing a body part or something. And maybe they even replaced it with a wheelchair, or maybe they got a fake leg or something. But they're just missing a part. It's not like they can't do anything. But they might be embarrassed that they're missing the part. A good way to imagine is, say you have like a gigantic cold sore, okay? And you think, I need to go to the store. And you think, well, I don't know that I want to go to the store. How do I get out of this? And then if you go to the store, you get in line, somehow you have a feeling even the people 2 rows over are noticing that thing, even if they're not. It feels like those sort of things are really out there. So just try to imagine and have empathy for a person who is embarrassed a little bit. What would you do to make a person feel more comfortable? Hey, talk to them. Just talk to them. They don't care if they're missing an arm, but they feel embarrassed if they don't get talked to. So, and there is some humor in all this. Yeah, I am disabled also. And my brother and I, we're good friends. We get along really well, and sometimes when we're done having our weekend together, he'll kind of thumb his nose at me. But it's hard to do because he doesn't have a thumb, but he pretends to thumb his nose. And he'll say things like, well, I hope you can finally grow up someday. And I know what he's doing. He's egging me on because he wants to see me hold up my hand. And he wants to see me make the gesture. And he wants to hear me say, hey, bro, do you read shorthand? Anyway, I love my brother. He's a gate drinker. Thank you.